Hey, everybody, this is Joe Joseph, and this is the dailysheeple.com's news shot, and a very important one at that, as a listener has sent me a story that really troubles me, and it's from Western Massachusetts News. Agawam High School is using drones now, one of the first in the state to use drones to watch students outside of the building during the day. And it brought up some very fundamental things that I'd like to discuss tonight, because this points out the abject failure of our school system today, and the fact that it was never meant to succeed. It was never meant to make you smarter. As a matter of fact, it was found well over 50 years ago that it was designed to make you dumb. And this is absolutely troubling to me. So I'm going to walk you through some very telling statistics and give you a brief history of what Charlotte Iserby, former Assistant Secretary of Education under President Reagan, deemed the deliberate dumbing down of America. Because think about it. If our education system was a success, why would we need drones to watch our students sneak out, get away? Why would they rebel so much? Why do we need to enforce servitude under a jackboot? It makes absolutely no sense. Oh, what we need is discipline. Well, let me tell you something. What you have here is not the proper discipline. It's not the correct discipline. And it certainly is showing and telling in the statistics. Let's start first by going to the rankings by the OECD. That, my friends, is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Now, the OECD is an organization of countries that get together and basically share ideas on how to better interact with each other. And one of the things that they do is they test using something called the PISA test. And the PISA test basically takes math, literacy, and science, and then out of 70 countries, they rank them based on how well the students do. Same test, everybody's given the same thing. Here's a picture of the United States and how we rank. In mathematics, we are 40th in the world. 40th out of 70 tested in science. 25th in science. In mathematics, a staggering 40th out of 70. Reading, 24 out of 70. The interesting thing to note here is in 1953, when the United States created the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, the United States was by far and away the number one country in the world in all three of these statistics, prior to the government taking over education. Before that, localities handled education. Parents handled education. Parents were more involved in their education. Public schools weren't daycare like they are today. And the culture of convenience has made it extremely simple for parents to just go ahead and push the responsibility off on the state to ensure that their children are prepared for adulthood, when in reality, it doesn't prepare them at all. Let me ask everybody a simple question, and just go ahead and answer it yourselves. Honestly, if you take a look at your education and you were to put a percentage from 1st to 12th grade, how much of that you learned, you actually apply on a daily basis in the execution of your life, what would it be? Just put a percentile to it. I think of a few things. Reading, basic math. I don't use history. I found out that that's a lie. Everything that they taught me in school, when you start diving down that road, and it's a slippery slope. Science, really not quite a science guy. Never really got into it. Don't use it too much. Like I said, mathematics outside of the basic stuff, I don't really use anything outside of that much. Why? Because it never really interested me. When I went to high school, I rebelled. Even though I had the capability of being able to knock it out of the park, that there was nothing in high school that was beyond my capability, I made the personal choice as a teenager to not participate in certain things because they just didn't interest me. And it snuffed out a lot of my desire to learn, my desire to better myself. And instead, I found myself rebelling and not doing the things that I would have liked to have done. I would have liked to have learned. I would have liked to have achieved. And that, my friends, was the entire purpose behind the current public education structure. Now, I'm not knocking teachers for this. It's not their fault. They're given curriculum and they're given standards that they have to adhere to. And they do so for pennies on the dollar. And it's a thankless job. But I'm telling you, the system we have is broken. Human beings were not designed to be cookie-cuttered into standardized education. Take a look at some of the geniuses of our time. Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla. People who flamed out of school or didn't do as well. Why? Oh, they were freaks. Those are the ones that when you go to public school, they're vilified. They're made fun of. What you really have in public school is prison culture. The normalization of institutionalizing your children. Bell rings, go here. Learn behavior, Pavlov's dogs. That's what the public school system was designed for. That's what the Dodd Report shows. And you can get that on Scribed.com. Download a copy of it. The Dodd Report was a product of the Reese Committee in 1953 and 1954. Representative Carol Reese was charged with investigating the endowments as they were found to be influencing the way that our public education system was being structured. And nothing ever came of that report, and no changes were ever made. You can even go to YouTube and watch an amazing interview by G. Edward Griffin with Norman Dodd, the man responsible for generating the Dodd Report, and it will blow your mind as far as what they found. Yet we blindly follow, and we allow our children to live in a culture where you can have school lockdowns, where you can have dogs sniffing around in their lockers and on their people and on their persons, where police roam the halls. You're normalizing prison culture and making it acceptable, and it should never be acceptable. Again, it was all done by design, and we're here now for a reason. Charlotte Iserby penned a fantastic piece, former assistant Secretary of Education under President Reagan, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. Read it. It was a Barnes & Noble #1 bestseller. This is not a fabrication. This is all the result of a plan to make you and I drones, to make us as easily controllable as that device that Agawam public schools are using to watch their children. That's what we've been designed, and I say designed because that's the output of the system. That's what we've become. And we're snuffing out that creative fire within our children. We're snuffing out the future Edisons and the future Teslas of our day, because those are the children that typically act out when they're bored in these situations. And instead, what do? We drug them. Instead of saying, holy smoke, look at this kid. This kid is just unbelievably gifted in math. You know what you do with that person? The person that knows math, but they really can't catch English to save their life, you shove math down their throat, and you keep shoving it down their throat, and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing that math, because that's what they enjoy. That's where the fire is. English, social studies, give them a quick and simple background on it, but that's not what they're wired for. Acknowledge it. Don't fight and try and get your children to swallow garbage. All they'll want to do is puke it up. You try eating garbage one day and see how that makes your stomach feel. In 1972, April of 1972, in his keynote address to the Association for Childhood Education International, Chester M. Pierce, professor of education and psychiatry in the Faculty of Medicine at Harvard University, proclaimed this, quote, "Every child in America entering school at the age of 5 is insane because he comes to school with certain allegiances towards our founding fathers, towards his parents, towards a belief in a supernatural being. It's up to you, teachers, to make all of these sick children well by creating the international child of the future." My friends, we have the power. You individually have the power to pull your children out of the trance and to rekindle the fire that's within them, because it's there. But you have to plug in and know what their interests are and know how they're wired and not force a bunch of garbage down their throat that they're never going to use and will never prepare them for the challenges that they're going to face in adulthood. So if you need to use drones to keep your children or keep the children in that school behaved, to make them comply, my friends, there are many more problems there that need to be addressed. And that is a glaring red flag. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Subscribe to this YouTube channel today and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. Have a great day.